Now then, so the story and then our closing hymn. So there's a wonderful story in the Bible about this guy called Peter. And Peter is a fisherman who has this extraordinary experience of being called away from his life as a fisherman to become a follower of this prophet, this guy who thought very differently than what Peter had done as a fisherman. And so for 3 years they traveled around. And then this fellow kind of passed the torch to them. And he said, I'm going to send you a spirit to help you. And Peter became a leader in this movement that had like such a different way to think. And he tried to be a leader, but he often got stuck doing things exactly the way he had done when the leader was there. Because he didn't quite grasp the principle. And so sometimes he just tried to rubber stamp and repeat what had happened. And so he was doing that as this early movement was increasing. And that was great. But then there became a big decision that had to be made. Would they open their doors wider than what the original leader had seen? And you know, when you're going to do something different than you've ever done before, that's when you have to understand the underlying principle, the underlying value. And Peter didn't get it. And so he thought, well, this is who the original leader involved in the movement, and that's where we're going to stay. And then Peter had this dream. And it was a vivid dream. And in it, he was talking directly to the Almighty. And the Almighty said, you know what? Don't judge who's in and who's out. The Almighty said, you know what? You call some things like they're not good. But I call them good. I want to include all. Well, Peter woke up and he was absolutely shaken to his core because he had to make this big decision. And he'd been all ready to say, no, you know what, the Gentiles can't be in. Not unless they become exactly like us. And once he had this dream, he knew that actually God wanted the Gentiles to be in. Because there was a universality to God's love and to God's acceptance. Well, we no longer have to deal with the question of whether or not the Gentiles are in and all that kind of stuff. But each day in the news, we're confronted by the question of who can be in and who has to stay out. And if we don't know the kind of principle, the dream that God has, that somehow we figure it out together. Well, if we don't know that dream, we might be apt to make the wrong decision. Read it in the book of Acts. Think about it. Our faith is not about I'm not going to say the negative. Our faith is about trusting ourselves and having confidence in the higher power, in God, in the Spirit of Jesus, that if we let everybody in and let all voices be heard, we'll be able to figure out whatever is before us.